everybody. Welcome back to the Music Buds podcast. This is episode number 38, and my name is Henry. This week, I'm honored to be joined by the singer-songwriter Caitlyn Scarlett. Caitlyn, it's so nice to meet you, and thank you for taking the time. I really am a fan, and so I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. Well, how's life for you, first of all?
Wow. Can I swear?
Oh, yeah, please.
Good to know, because it's really hard for me to not. How's life? It's good. I'd say personally, I'm really privileged and happy, but it's been so up and down, for everyone.
Yeah.
Including myself.
Yeah. Well, I guess kind of kicking things off, how is it that you got started in music? Was that something you had always set out to do, or did it just kind of happen randomly one day?
Yeah, it's kind of always been my thing. I know it's the cringy story that a lot of people tell, but I really I started singing before I started speaking. So my mum always knew that it was going to be music for me, and I toyed with ideas of maybe being an author, and then I wanted to be in the West End for a while, and I kind of ended up merging the two by being a songwriter.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you did move to London just in your late teens, right? Yeah,
I did. I was really eager. I was always eager to live in London since I can remember. I grew up about an hour and a half away from it. So it was, I didn't have the city upbringing, but I was very much involved in it for a long time, having friends from London or going up for trips to the theatre or something special like that.
Yeah.
As soon as I could, a friend of mine in college, I was making a long commute every day to college from my house to King's Cross, and eventually one of my friends was like, "Oh, I've got a spare room in my house. I'm going to rent out. Do you want to move in?" I was like, "Yes."
Well, I mean, I can imagine that would be a fairly daunting thing to do. I mean, if I was in my late teens and I did that, it would be it would take a lot. So, I mean, was it both exciting and a little scary to make that jump, or was it just you were ready to go at that point?
I'd say the excitement definitely outweighed the scary, because if it didn't, I don't think I would have gotten through it. Yeah. I was very much high on life and the possibilities and the people I was meeting and the places I was going. And my mum has, luckily for me, always been very much a free spirit and allowed me to do whatever I think I'm ready to do. So a lot of her friends were like, "What are you doing letting Caitlyn move out to London?" And it's a small town, so they see London as this horror show. Right. She's like, "No, she knows what she's doing." And I might have had a few bumps and scrapes along the way, but I'm very glad it went the way it did.
Yeah, for sure. Well, who were some artists or musicians that you first connected with?
I would always connect with the ones that had the most lyrical prowess and a really unique, sometimes thespian edge. So people like Kate Bush and David Bowie, and like I said, with the lyricist thing, like Bob Dylan and stuff, they always stood out to me. I'm not really biased towards genres. I just think the greats of every genre stood out, and I can't remember. I can't remember a single day where I wasn't obsessed with someone or something. But mostly the unique, awkward titans.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's kind of similar for me, where and I guess things like Spotify have made it easier, but some of the greats are great for a reason. They're not just there by happenstance, and so. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes people like Bob Dylan, I mean, he's amazing. So
I like that he's polarizing as well,
Yeah.
You say, you like Bob Dylan, people tend not to have a mild response. It's either, "Oh, I love Bob Dylan," or, "Oh, he's shit, he can't even sing." Yeah. And I just love that about him. Yeah,
I have a friend. Yeah, speaking of, I have a friend who's the exact opposite of me. And so, I get that for sure. Well, how did, I guess, music as a career and producing things, how did that start? When did all that happen?
So my music career started with small indie gigs and stuff in the town I grew up in. And I had a very acoustic approach to songwriting for the first few years. That very twee sort of Ellie Goulding, just girl with big side fringe and acoustic guitar. And then once I reached London, my world opened up because most of my friends were rappers, and that meant that I suddenly fell into the world of beats and production. So as soon as that came into my life, I started making a lot more poppy and sort of urban influenced music. And I ended up putting some of my stuff that I was making for college online, which turned into an EP called Jurassic Jukebox and Other Drugs. And that kind of had like a moment on SoundCloud. Back then, SoundCloud was the place to be for music. Yeah. And that's where it all began, really, while I was discovering this new world of sounds, and also being at music college, having the access to recording equipment and having my first few goes.
Yeah. And now, like, I mean, asking about your creative process, like that sounds kind of cheesy, but like, do you find that like with songwriting or ideas for things just kind of come all over the place, or does it happen at certain times of the day, or really does it happen all over the place?
Yeah, it's sort of never ending. It's a dream that it never turns off. But I think there are times where it protrudes and it grabs your attention. And I'll find like certain things do definitely heighten it. Like if I'm having a deep conversation with a close friend, there always ends up being that one or two line that someone says that just really comes out sounding like poetry. And I'm like, I have to write that down in my notes, you know. And then, you know, a long journey will bring a lot of lyrics out, a lot of staring out of a window will do it.
Yeah.
And then as far as like the whole song coming to life, that's always in the studio. So I tend to store up ideas constantly on my phone. And then when I'm in the studio, the music triggers something that marries well. Either it triggers an idea that's completely its own thing and I write something on the spot. But oftentimes I find that whilst I look through my material that's in the waiting line, something jumps out that fits with what I'm hearing.
Gotcha. And so like I guess the music side or the sounds of it, that oftentimes comes later, like when you're in the studio, but you're still, I guess, thinking about it before you go in.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about it before I go in. I always have a rough tempo in mind. I always have a key that I tend to think of. I'm not always right about that. That tends to be just how I needed to get where I was going. And then sometimes we write the whole song and realize if we move it up 3, it would be way better. But that's what I love about collaboration. So all my original ideas, they're like the cordial, and then in order to make the whole drink, we need the water of like someone doing stuff I would never have thought of.
Right.
So, I might write a whole song on my guitar, and that means that I wrote the chords, but the chords won't sound like what I wrote when we're done, you know?
Yeah. I think that is kind of the cool thing, like just looking at your discography with like, you've had so many cool collaborations, and I feel like, you starting off solo thinking about these things, but then, going into the studio and connecting or collaborating, I feel like that would, as you were just saying, it kind of opens up those cool doors because it's kind of endless possibilities.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're half of the equation every time, you're going to get something that love, recognize, but also could have never achieved on your own.
Yeah.
And I love to collaborate, and that's why I've done so many.
Yeah.
Love it.
And with some of like with the Red Tape, like volumes 1 and 2, which are great. There are songs like B.I.G., which is like the most killer like song that will always get me like ready to like take on the day. And it's cool having the variety of something that's more intense and like a rebel kind of fight song like that is, as opposed to some of the other songs on those collections that are more quiet and dreamy. Is that like, I mean, that's the kind of thing that would keep me interested if I was creating that kind of thing. Yeah,
definitely. I take a lot of pride in not putting myself in a box and allowing the music to come out just the way that it presents itself to me. Mm-hmm. So some days I might make that dreamy, haunting, melancholy type stuff. And then other days I might be pissed off, or I might be feeling sassy, or, there are times I make music with my friends and I might be totally drunk while I'm making a song. Sure. So I absolutely love letting that flow out naturally. I think that's what makes a song good, when it writes itself. And if you don't get in your own way. And sometimes I do get a flash of embarrassment after, like with B.I.G. putting it out. We put it out as a single ahead of the EP, and at the time I remember being very nervous that people wouldn't understand that you should take it with like a pinch of salt, because I'm sort of projecting who I want to be, not who I am. And I'm so happy people got it, because I do have I have a tendency to be really cocky in my songs and then be like, oh God, I hope that wasn't too much in person.
No, I mean, I guess that's kind of the cool thing. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I love recordings of any kind, really, because it does capture a moment in time, and there will be times I go back and listen to like old podcast episodes that I've done 2-3 years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember when I was feeling that way. Or, and so that's, you might as well be genuine, in one way or the other. So, well, also one thing, is you have these music videos like, Ornaments is cool. And is music video something that is kind of a natural, I guess, complement to doing the song, or is that something that is kind of its own beast to tackle?
I think it depends which way you look at it. It's sort of its own beast, like from a business perspective, but for a creative, they go hand in hand. Like I can picture a music video as I'm writing the song. I pretty much always do. And I think my biggest bane at the moment is never having the budget to do what I see in my head.
Right.
Because it's always larger than life. And I hope that in the future I will be lucky enough to execute some of the ideas I have as I have them with the lyrics. But yeah, music videos, they're not something I've prioritized in the last few years, and there's something I'm looking to. But I find like sometimes I don't feel like I could match how much I love the song, how much I love the video, and I'm happier not doing a video than doing one I don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I will definitely be doing them going forward.
Yeah. I guess that's one of the things with being in quarantine and in this pandemic. You can either like be creating a ton of or producing a lot, or you can also just have things in your mind and you're just kind of having this endless weight of like, okay, when am I actually going to be able to see all this come out?
Yeah. And it's been a real mix for me of like, what can I do now? What can I create now? And also what is just got to sit in the back and distill for a while.
Yeah. Is there along with getting those things made, is there anything else in particular, whether related to music or just regular life, that you're looking forward to most after things get back to a somewhat normal?
I just miss the chaos of it all. I miss the opportunity to bump into someone in the market. I miss walking into the girls' toilets in a club and like making 5 new best friends.
Sure.
I miss the variety of life, the unpredictability of it, and I kind of just can't wait to have everything back that we had that we didn't appreciate.
Yeah. And with having done this for many years, is there anything? I mean, of course, you with age you become wiser, or hopefully people do. Have you learned anything either, I guess, about yourself as an artist, or something similar as you've produced more and had more years experience with it?
Yeah, I mean, you're never done learning. I'll probably listen back to this one day and be like, what did she know?
Sure.
I've learned a lot about when to let go of the reins and when to hold them tight. Trusting your gut. I've learned a lot about how fashions come and go, because not only am I an artist, but I've been writing music for others for a few years now, and I've kind of come in the industry via the back door in a way. So I think a lot of what I've seen at first really jarred me and ruined my perspective on the industry, and now it's put me in more firm footing to execute the plan that I want, with the knowledge of knowing what I'm going to have to get through and move past.
Right. Well, out of curiosity, who have you done songs for or written for?
Well, sometimes the lady never tells, but
Sure.
I'm just really lucky to work with a wide range of like upcoming pop artists and dance artists, and I've been included on some endeavors that have been like really flattering and exciting for me. And when this pandemic ends, hopefully I can get back to doing that. And my job's allowed me to travel around the world and meet amazing new people, and I think that's my favorite part, is the traveling. And I'm very driven to write when somebody has put faith in me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you, whether it's a dream collaboration or it's someone who you just enjoy listening to, are there any artists right now that stand out to you as favorites for whatever reason?
Of course. I mean, there's always a steady flow of like fresh blood that I absolutely love. But I think recently, and she's not that new, but I've just been obsessed again with Tierra Whack. Like I went back and looked at Whack World, and I was just like, God damn, it's just so good. I showed my housemates.
Yeah.
And half of them had never heard of her, and we sat and watched the whole 15-minute album, and it was just like, shit, damn it, how do I do something that cool?
Yeah.
But there's probably 5,000 others that I can't think of this very, very second. Mm-hmm. TikTok's helping me find a lot of tunes, a lot of cool mashups as well. I'm finding that I'm enjoying like a lot of songs that I already knew, but it's like two of them and they're both pitch shifted and they're melted together somehow, and it just like, I love about TikTok. Yeah,
TikTok is a beast of its own. You gotta go into it, you know. Well, speaking of like with social media now, especially with the pandemic, like I love being able to be on there and connect with people, but also there are times where I wish I could kind of pull away, but I'm almost obligated to be a part of certain things to keep things updated and all that. Do you have like, how do you feel about social media, you know, over the last year? Has it changed or has it been about the same for you?
It's ever changing. Since I think being about 15, I can just remember constantly having this thing in my life of social media, like a presence and another person in the room. And sometimes I really do feel like you said, like it's an obligation. And if it were up to me, I'd have different boundaries around my life and about how much I share of it. But I'm an independent artist and people have to reach me and find me somehow. And I would never want to shun anyone who wants to like connect with me or see what I'm up to. I'm actually really flattered by that. I just hate the way that it works, and I hate the algorithms. I hate the fact that I get such a better response when I post a vain selfie than when I upload a poem. I really wish that we could sort things like that out. But it can be a force for good. I love TikTok for how much it's opened my world up. There's so much. There's such a variety of content on there. Some of it really sensitive and intimate, and some of it like mind blowing. But I do think it's a little bit overwhelming sometimes for me emotionally.
Yeah. I guess I'm the same way. It's like it's so nice to be able to like people can be so open, and so it can be so great to connect with them in that way, especially if it's someone who you've never even met before. You can just kind of have a connection with that person, but also it's like there are times where it's a little overwhelming, but you know, for better or worse, you know, good and bad. So
everything in moderation.
Exactly.
Including moderation.
Yeah. Well, with like, just out of curiosity, with like releasing songs, obviously, you know, it's a career, it's a product, but also is releasing something like a song is it therapeutic? Because I know like for me, releasing a podcast, it can just kind of help get a little bit of anxiety out, even if it's something very minor. Is that kind of similar for you?
Yeah, I think in a way it's an interesting thing, because I think the song being written and the song being done and the song coming out those steps can have huge gaps between them sometimes. So
yeah,
it's emotionally different with every release, because sometimes you write a song and within 3 months it's out and you're like, oh my God, and you're still living it. And that's a really fun experience. And then there are other times where a song I wrote 2-3 years ago about somebody who broke my heart, who is irrelevant to me now, has just come out. And there is like a release I didn't even realize I was waiting for. And it's almost like I'm laying the track out behind me as I go. And it just, once it's down, I can move on to the next, set. And yeah, it's definitely a release. It feels a little bit like laying down a bit of legacy as well. If that's what your calling is, to do music, every time I put a song out, it adds to what I leave behind.
Sure. No, that's a good point. It is crazy, like talking about someone like Bob Dylan, who's been around for so long. Especially if you know nothing about them and you see they have, 20 albums, and you just see the like amount of stories in that person's life just kind of plastered on the screen. It's incredible. And so it's a cool way to put it, because it's such an interesting way to learn about someone. Because one cool thing, I guess, and you could jump in here, but like releasing a song could have a different meaning for someone when you hear it first or when you write it first, as opposed to 10 years. You could have a completely different perspective on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had that actually with my previous single that I put out with myself and my friend Raph Riley, No Gentleman. That was one of those songs where I wrote it actually a couple of years ago, and it was really emotional to write. And then I went through so many phases with it, but no matter what, we never stopped loving the song. It was just like such a banger. By the time it came out, it felt totally different to me, like completely different. And we even changed it right at the last minute. We gave it a bit of a production facelift, and it became like a new person. It was a really weird journey to go on with the song. Yeah.
Are there, I'm sure there are many, but are there any songs in particular that you hold close to your heart, or ones that were either challenging or ones that you feel have helped you get to where you are now, that stand out to you?
That's an interesting question. There's a song, Nightmares, that I did as a theme song for a TV show over here in the UK called Click. Yeah. And it's made by the same team who made this iconic show called Skins. And you watched it?
Yeah. Love it.
Everyone watched Skins growing up, back then. It was like the show. I was such a huge fan. And so when I found out that I had the opportunity to write, and that team is really big on breaking musical artists as well. I think they were the first people to ever put Florence Welch, as in Florence and the Machine, on TV.
Oh, wow.
And a few others. So I was super keen. And the song that came out just ended up being, I think, one of my most poignant ones. I don't know, just something about the lyrics. I so badly wanted to do a good job, and I was going through a bunch of stuff at the time, and I managed to slip in a lyric about my skin not being right yet, because I was suffering from really bad late onset acne, and also it was the Skins production team, so I wanted a Skins reference in there.
Perfect. Yeah.
It was like, it started out as a job which I wasn't even sure I'd feature on with a name, and it ended up being the most wicked collab and a song I'm like super proud of.
That's awesome. We're like TV shows and movies along with Skins. Was it that big for you growing up?
Definitely.
Like, did that affect how you were creating things, or? Oh
my gosh, yeah. My whole wanderlust has always come from a bit of an obsession for teen viewpoints. I absolutely love teen drama. I still do. I still suffer with the cognitive dissonance of relating so hard to teenagers, but being 25 now.
Sure.
And I'll probably never stop writing about my formative years. It really infects me. I love it. And I think a lot of my favorite artists do too. I've been listening to a lot of Lana Del Rey. She's obviously just put out her new album.
Yeah.
She's one of those artists who I think never got over her youth either. Well, she's still in it, of course, but there's that real wanderlust of teenage life, teenage drama.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I guess people will get on my case for enjoying high school, dramas or whatever, but it's there's just something about it that's so, I mean, at least for me, is so easily accessible and enjoyable, because it was such a middle school, high school, your head is just, in flux all the time. So I never really tire of it either.
Yeah, absolutely love it. It does bother me slightly sometimes. Now that I'm more emotionally mature, I do find myself agreeing with the parents sometimes, and I'm like, oh no, what's happened? I'm like, yeah, of course you shouldn't run off with that boy at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
he's drunk driving. What are you doing?
Yeah,
me would have been like, let her live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have there, with the quarantine and the pandemic, have there been any movies or TV shows you've been enjoying, or have you been just kind of focused on other things?
Oh, there have been phases, eras. We've done it all. Me and my partner have done it all. I think one of my favorite ones was going back and watching all of Lena Dunham's Girls from start to end. That was really fun. I watched all of Lord of the Rings for the first time. Never seen them.
Great stuff.
Yeah, that was great. There was, of course, the Tiger King era. We'll never forget that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I went back and watched some of my favorite movies just because I could. Like, I watched a lot of just random things like Manic Pixie Dream Girl films, mostly like Ruby Sparks and Candle Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And
I feel like for me, it's been, I guess, just with the heaviness of the year, I've been watching a ton of sitcoms. Just like I've been like, I'll try and watch some serious film or something, and then I'm like, I would just so much rather be laughing right now. And you know, so
I'm really into like YouTubing just clips of comedians lately. There's Dry Bar Comedy, that YouTube channel. I swear I've seen every video on it. I need to laugh.
Yeah. Well, Caitlyn, it's so nice talking with you. Is there anything else in particular I haven't touched on that you'd like to have known, or anything coming up or anything recent that you'd like to have out there?
I would love if people would follow me on social media if you feel inclined to do so, listeners. That would be great. I have a lot of cool music coming out. Like many people, my career was somewhat stunted by this whole event over the last year. I think all I want to say to people is support artists coming out of this pandemic. Please go buy tickets to things and buy merch and buy copies of albums if you can, and just really support artists, because we need to restable the ecological balance. It's been a hard time, and I think we've really gotten through it and been quite good. I mean, so many wonderful friends of mine who should be on stages performing around the world have had to get jobs as delivery drivers or babysitters, and they haven't moaned. And I would just say to people, if you've been using art to get through the pandemic, please give back. Like, now that we can hopefully soon go outside and mingle again.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm in a music program right now, and we have these, so many people have these face masks that say, I miss live music. And it's like, and it's this kind of feeling that so many people I know, there's aching to get back there, as am I. So that's well said. So, okay, well, cool. Well, Caitlyn, thank you so much again for taking the time. You're welcome back whenever you would like. If some other release comes out down the road, I would love to get you back on.
I'll come back after I've got an EP coming out with Raph Riley.
Oh, cool.
A whole bunch more songs, so maybe I'll come back after that's out.
Awesome. That sounds good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. All right, everybody. I think that is about it for the show this week. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your way out. Thank you so much. You can also follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Music Buds. Check out themusicbuds.com where you can donate and buy merchandise. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we'll see you next time.